Hello and welcome. I am your grumpy guide to all things gaming, the OGGM, with another OGGM adventure. Oh, gee, why do you keep doing these? Jesus. It is Friday, the 18th. It is 10 a.m. Today is, amongst other things, National Cheeseburger Day. So go get yourself a cheeseburger, I guess, if that's a thing or not. I don't know. It could be a thing. It is also the first night of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. And what better way than to take a look at those two things, cheeseburgers and the Jewish New Year, than beginning our deep dive into the 2020 Silver Award-winning RPG of the Year, mork borg, which I'm probably not saying correctly. Mork borg comes to us from, of all places, Sweden. Really? Yeah, I could never have guessed. And Mork Borg is a grim, dark OSR fantasy role-playing game. Though really, it's an RPG only in the barest way. It's more of a source book for a particular style of game and an art book. In fact, it is advertised as art punk role playing because the main thing these guys are pushing is the lore of this unbelievably dark and depressing world and the amazing, if slightly weird and depressing and disturbing, scrap princess, neo-gothic, death metal art. So let's begin our deep dive by questioning, first and foremost, why did this win Game of the Year? Well, runner-up Game of the Year. Second place, Aliens, a role-playing game, came in first place. Strangely enough, both from the same company. In fact, Free League Publishing pretty much hit it out of the park this year at the awards, winning almost all the awards, which tells you that Free League Publishing is doing something really good. So why did this win Game of the Year? Because the system, the actual system, it is not a D&D game. It is an OSR game, but it has its own little system. It's not that great. I mean, it doesn't really tell you much of anything. The character classes make very little sense. That's one of the character classes. He is a fanged deserter. I guess it's supposed to be their version of a fighter barbarian who goes around biting people. And this is their occult Hemager, which I guess is sort of their version of wizards. And the actual chunky bits of the role-playing mechanics of this game are just barely that. I mean, I've gone through it 3 times, and I still really don't understand how to make a character or what my character does when it progresses, but I think that's partially because of the translation issue from the original Nordic, Swedish, whatever, Greenlandic, Icelandic language to English. And second, first and foremost, I think they weren't really trying to build a role-playing game. I think they were pushing this idea, this art style, this in-your-face, death metal, grim, dark fantasy world, and then they just threw in an RPG section because I don't think it actually needs the rules, because really it's more of a lore book, more of a how to run this style of game book, and more just look at this amazing art book than it is a system. The system itself, really could use some work. The style of the game, if you are into this is amazing. Like, grim dark role-playing has been a thing for a couple years now. And with each evolution of grimdark world-playing, if we go back to Warhammer Fantasy up to Mork Borg, it's just gotten much more darker, much more surreal, much more, I have no chance in hell, much more everything outside the village is trying to kill you, very much more Diablo-esque and less D&D Tolkien-esque, and just the idea that nothing you do really changes the world. And your characters aren't really heroes. They're just, survivors and scavengers. And there's really nothing special about them except for they chose to pick up a sword instead of that guy over there. The only difference between your character and that dude is that your character chose to pick up a sword. Your character chose, for whatever reason, to leave the relative safety of the village, though in this world that means absolutely nothing, and go out and fight monsters and risk life and limb because I got nothing better to do, and it's better than, raising cabbages back home. So the progression of grim dark role playing has gone with each individual game and each individual evolution a little bit darker, a little bit more in your face, a little bit just, nothing you do matters. There's just hopelessness, the hopelessness. This is not a beautiful world. This is a visceral, ugly, Lovecraftian, post-apocalypse, the bad guys won world. And so in each evolution, it gets a little bit worse until finally we get to mork borg, which basically the world of mork borg is dying. The sun is going to explode, a giant meteor is going to hit you, a Cthulhu-esque monster is going to eat the world, the evil cultists have succeeded in summoning Godzilla. The world of mork borg is doomed. Not just like, Sauron won and we're going to be plunged to 100 years of darkness doom. No, like, this world is going to die. Every single solitary living being on this planet, this world, this universe of mork borg is doomed. The planet's doomed. There's nothing you can do to change that. You have a very limited amount of time to adventure. Every single day, that world spins closer and closer to doom. Every single day, the horrible darkness is coming out and feasting because, the bad guys won, the darkness is winning, the world is dying, then these horrible monsters are just getting free reign. And every day, the few surviving humans are becoming worse and worse because they just are indulging in all the worst aspects of their humanity because they're doomed. And when you're doomed, that's just you tend to go into that doomness and embrace the doomness. It's like, well, nothing I'm going to do is change the world, so I might as well just do everything I can to make my life better. If that means I make everybody else's life around me worse, oh, well, fuck it, we're all going to die in a week. And literally, there is a rule in this game how long the game is going to last before the world ends. And it could be anywhere from one day to a couple months to maybe you have a year or two, and you roll on the table, and every time the certain thing happens in the game, you move up the counter. So if the counter starts like, the world is going to end in a week, every time you take a rest or stop, that counter moves up. So Friday, this campaign ends. Everybody's dead. Or the world's going to end in a year. Or if you want to go really, really hardcore, you start the campaign with, the world ends tomorrow. And there is a page in the rules on setting that up. Now, the rules are, like I said, very badly written. It is mostly a lore book. It's mostly just a lore talking about this world, the events that lead up to this world, how people are reacting to this world. It's very strange. This is not your typical D&D world. It's not really, this is just a death punk, heavy metal, art punk, visceral punch in the face of a system and of a world. There's just nothing good about this world and nothing hopeful, except maybe the end of the world is preventable. Maybe. And there's a dim maybe, and mostly the game is written that no, it's not. But there is that little glimmer of hope, because there has to be a little glimmer of hope. Something has to motivate the characters to be more than just a barbaric, Morgul scavenger. I'm going to kill and rape Ravager and, where you're, you have to be better than the worst of humanity, because that's what you're fighting against. And if you're not going to be better than the worst of humanity, if you're not going to try and be that, no matter how horrible of a scavenger, reaver, whatever your character is, there has to be that little teeny flame of hope that maybe you can make a difference, either in your own personal life, grab as much gold as I can to make what few moments I have left more enjoyable, and make it more enjoyable for the people I care about, or maybe there actually is a way to change this outcome, and that is described when they talk about the gods of this world, these two-headed chimeras who have predicted, the end of the world, and they have dreamed that the world is going to end, and nothing you're going to do is going to prevent it. But if they're dreaming the world's going to end, and they're dreaming that, but one of them is also dreaming that maybe it's not going to end. Maybe there is either a way to prevent this or a way to create a afterlife, a Ragnarok, and then the world that comes after that will actually be a better place. So there are things worth fighting for besides just go in the dungeon, kill the monsters, take its stuff, save the villagers, because why bother saving the villagers if they're just going to die tomorrow? So there has to be reasons to motivate the characters, and which are in here. But it is very badly edited. It goes all over the place. The rules are hibbly-hobbly. It reminds me a lot of Palladium in that, there's rules, then there's lore, then there's more rules, then there's more lore, then there's more rules. But the art is amazing, and that is what really pushed it forward. And I think the reason why this won, A, is the art style, this very neo-gothic death metal art style, and 2, because it's just so different. And for a lot of people who are sick and tired of the cloying silliness of D&D and really want a dark, visceral role-playing game where everything you do actually matters, this was like a breath of fresh air, the same way that Tales from the Loop and Alien were a breath of fresh air. It provides you with a world that is so completely different than the Matt Mercer woke SJW Forgotten Realms, everything is awesome, everybody is okay world that D&D is becoming, to an actual, this is what the Middle Ages are really fucking like. And this is the way magic really should work. And this is just, the world is punching you in the face, constantly punching you in the face. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to let this guy win? Or are you going to stand up, pick up your sword, and say, no, my 2 hit points and my armor class of, 1 shot and I'm dead is going to try and stand against you winning in some way or form, because otherwise, what's the point? So there we go. That is the first basic look at Mork Borg. The art style, this very neo-gothic art style. Gothic does not mean, just for your edification, pale-skinned girl wearing a dark hat and who looks like Wednesday Addams and is sort of hot. Feruza Bulk, That's not what Gothic means. Gothic is a time period and a style of art that, came out of the Middle Ages. And it's this very, wood print, Gutenberg Bible, old art style. I mean, see, you have these 2 people hidden in here, and, there's probably something else hidden. The style of art that, we saw coming out of the Dark Ages, the very stylized, the very, here's death taking this guy out for a drink and trying to, convince him to drink more so he can lead him down, the dark path and whatever. So we have that very early style of art. So that's our first look at Mork Borg. We will continue this tomorrow. Till then, bam!